Welcome back to the Flow Performance Podcast. My name is Ricky Dan, founder of Flow Nutrition and your host. On today's episode, we chat with exercise scientist, physiologist, and professional jump rope athlete, Dr. Kirstin Hannah. Now, I'm so keen to share this chat today. Kirstin has a super unique background and skill set that provides such a cool perspective on high performance and flow state. Now, you'll have to bear with me while I run through her background and experience here because it is very extensive and unbelievably impressive. So firstly, Kirstin completed a PhD in exercise science with the QAS back in 2017 and has since contributed to a number of applied sports science research projects. Kirstin was a performance scientist at the QAS for 10 years and has worked alongside Australia's best athletes and coaches across swimming, rowing, and athletics. During that time, she was also the team physiologist for Australian junior teams and 2 international Swimming Australia altitude camps. More recently though, and at the time of this chat, Kirst was working up on the sunny coast as the manager of the Sunshine Coast Olympic and Paralympic Swimming Hub. Since recording the podcast, she has now made the move to Melbourne and is now the manager of the Essendon Education Academy. What makes Kirstin's story super unique and interesting is not only her extensive background as an exercise scientist, but her super successful career as a professional jump rope athlete. She has competed at 5 World Jump Rope Championships, held national and world records, and as you'll hear in the chat, is super passionate about the growth of the creative and energizing sport of jump rope. She is the current coaching director for Skipping Australia, has been the president of Skipping Queensland, an internationally accredited judge, a program developer from the Power of 21, and a coach for the Australian Olympic team in the 2020 Olympic Games. On top of all of that, she has recently launched her own jump rope business, Roped In, which I've included some links to in the description for you all to check out. I first met Kirstin way back in 2014, and believe it or not, she was actually my tutor in a physiology subject in my undergrad degree at UQ. I actually hadn't seen her since that time, about 10 years ago, until I ran into her at a cafe here on the Sunshine Coast. Once I heard about how many epic things she had done over the years, especially within the jump rope world, I knew I had to get her on the podcast to share her story. So in today's chat, Kirstin details the various roles she's had within high-performance sport, her introduction to jump rope, and her journey as an athlete. We also dive into the sport of jump rope and what it actually is, the different disciplines, the formats of competition, training and competition demands, and then lastly, we touch on how Kirstin sees the sport progressing and key areas that could be explored within the research. If you're enjoying the podcast episodes and want to support the brand, make sure you jump on the website and grab some of our Flow nutritional bars. Our Flow Energy Bar is the easiest and most effective way to fuel before and during exercise, while our recovery bars nail the basics for post-exercise recovery. And just for listening to this podcast, you can get 10% off your total order with the code FLOWPOD at checkout. Now, this is such a valuable episode, so let's dive straight into it. Here is the chat with Dr. Kirstin Hannah.
3, 2, 1, yeah!
Welcome back to the Flow Performance Podcast. My name is Ricky Dan, founder of Flow Nutrition, and today I'm down at Moffat Beach on the beautiful Sunshine Coast with exercise scientist and competitive jump rope athlete, Dr. Kirstin Morris, or now known as Kirstin Hannah. Mm-hmm. Thanks for being on the potty.
Thanks for having me.
No worries at all. So, a bit of background to this chat and some context for the listeners. So, Kirstin was actually my tutor back at UQ back in the day. And this would have been, I was trying to think about this the other day, it would have been like 2015?
Yeah, I reckon. I don't know exactly, but I was going to say 2013 to 14. So let's go with 2014.
10 years. That is insane.
Yeah.
So, yeah, back then you were doing your PhD and I was just doing bachelor's, maybe like second or third year. Mm-hmm. A lot has happened since then. So you are an exercise scientist, you're a doctor, so you clearly finished the PhD. I would love to hear about sort of those last 10 years and what you've done, like in respect to the exercise science stuff. So where do you sort of start there?
That's a great question.
What have you been up to?
Where do you start with that kind of question? Tell me about the last 10 years of your life in like 2 minutes.
Pretty much.
Okay, so I guess in fourth year uni at UQ, you do the four years of Bachelor of Exercise and Sports Science. I did my honours within that fourth year, so on-course honours, and then the 400 hours of prac to get the Sports Science accreditation. I did both of those things with the Queensland Academy of Sport and graduated in 2012 from undergrad with first class honours, which gave me a scholarship to do a PhD starting 3 weeks later. So I pretty much jumped straight in. It was over the prac period that I really learnt that if you want to get a job in high performance, especially Olympic sports science, a PhD is pretty necessary, which I guess you don't really get told in first year, second year, third year, only really in fourth year, and you're like, okay, great, I guess I'm going to do this. Jumped straight in with that, and because I had the good connections with Queensland Academy of Sport, which I'll just refer to as QAS, did my PhD with QAS, and UQ as well, so still kept that UQ connection. I was pretty embedded in my PhD, so I spent 99.9% of my time within the QAS swimming program, doing my PhD in energetics, which I guess we didn't really learn about at uni, but it's basically the combination of mechanics and physiology together. So using the mechanics to understand the physiology and then looking at the physiological changes, physiological cost for different mechanics.
So for those out there who don't know much about PhDs, an embedded PhD is essentially a lot more hands-on. Like a lot of PhDs could just be sitting in an office or a lab doing work, but you were out there in the field at QAS actually getting shit done, which is cool.
Yes. Yeah. So
that was a positive experience overall?
Absolutely, yeah. It really helps you understand the athletes, the coaches, and because I was embedded there, I was also doing like the 10 hours a week work that you're allowed to do when you're on PhD scholarship. Definitely wasn't working more than that. No way. But yeah, you get to learn a lot, and then it makes your research actually applicable to the field. And obviously every researcher wants to research something that's going to make a difference. It's actually really hard to say that your research is making a difference. So to have those conversations and get to know the people that you're doing the research for, it just makes you more invested in the journey, and then also gives you the opportunity to take on full-time work when the position comes up, which is exactly what happened for me. So 3 years into PhD, looking at wrapping up in the next 6 months, I was offered a full-time job at QAS in the swimming program. So
a dream.
It was, yeah.
That is not common, just for the listeners who doesn't know much about PhDs.
No.
You must have been doing some good work then.
I
cool.
try my best always.
Yeah.
I went straight into full-time work, and that was around the time of the Rio Olympics and Paralympics. So, they came back from Rio, and I was a full-time physiologist. And then that meant that I had to finish PhD in my spare time. Which
rough.
For anybody that works in high-performance sport knows that is not a thing.
Yeah.
So they were probably, some of the hardest. It was 7 months of that, 7 months just slogging away. A lot of caffeine consumed and a lot of wine also consumed. But I got it done, so submitted February 2017. Went through the review process, which as well takes a long time. So it was officially passed in August 2017. And I continued my full-time role as a swimming physiologist. But because I had done swimming I made the choice in 2019 to change from swimming, because that was, 6.5 years of only being swimming. And I just felt like prac students coming through the QAS were actually getting more diverse knowledge and experience, and I was slowly forgetting my knowledge and experience in other sports. And so I was like, I'm keen to change this up and just challenge myself a little bit. So there was a vacancy. I didn't just push somebody out of the job. There was a vacancy with rowing and athletics. So I applied for that, even though it was internal. I still went through the job application process, and I got that role, which was really cool not only was it different sports, but it was just set up differently. So within QAS, our swimming program is the best of the best. We have incredible athletes, world record holders, world champions, Olympic champions, unreal. Within rowing, it's set up a little bit differently within Australia. So we've got a centralised program. So the top tier athletes go into the national training centres, and we've got men's one and women's one, and neither of those are based in Queensland. So the rowing program in Queensland is Pathways. So it gave me exposure to different level athletes, and the role itself was more of a generalist versus a specialist in swimming, and it was just me. So doing the biomech, the physiology, the pathways, the TID, the national testing. So rowing do a lot of national testing days, where everybody in the country who is vying for a spot on an Australian team will do the same test on the same day, and all data gets submitted. So it's pretty amazing logistical.
That's hectic.
Yeah, activity.
Would you just get in 100 prac students to come and help?
Well, that would be a logistics activity in itself.
Actually, yeah, sure. Don't know if that'd help you or be more of a burden.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
So that was like super interesting and great learning. And then doing 1 day a week athletics physiology as well. And athletics, so many different sports within athletics as well. And so that was quite cool. I like athletics. And then, at April 2023, the position opened back in swimming as the manager of the Sunshine Coast Swimming Hub, and that's what's brought me to Moffat Beach today. Just living up here.
Yeah.
Working
Not for
up
long,
here.
though, but
Not for long. moving away. But that's all right. It's a maternity leave cover, so I've always known that this is not going to be permanent up here, but I definitely will be encouraging strongly my husband to come and move back to the coast, because it's just
looking
been
behind you. How can you not?
It's such a good life. But yeah, so that's like the sports science last 10 years.
Yeah, wow. You've done well to summarise that, by the way. That's excellent.
Within, I guess, the reason why you've asked me here is not just sports science, so it's also the jump rope aspect. And I wasn't jumping rope that whole time. So I was jumping rope throughout uni, and I actually retired in second year uni after the World Championships. And for those people listening, World Championships in jump rope, it is a thing, because that's usually what I've first get met with is that's a thing. Yeah, it is.
Which is why when we caught up and I saw you at the cafe that day, you were telling me, I sort of knew that exercise science background. I knew you were working at QAS and doing these sick things. And then you mentioned jump rope, and I was just like, no way, that is sick. And if there's any sport where you would associate it with flow state, I feel like jump rope is hands down just textbook, a great example of that, right?
Can be,
yeah.
if you know what you're doing.
I did have a super quick question about the exercise science stuff before we do jump on, though. I get...
Pun.
Sorry?
Good pun.
Oh, what pun? I didn't even know.
Jump on.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Didn't even realise. So I'm an exercise scientist. I've done very little work in the actual area, but so often I just get asked, what do you actually do? Like, what is an exercise scientist? You've mentioned you had the workload of the biomechanist, the physiologist, all these different roles. What were you actually doing on like a day-to-day basis at QAS, predominantly as the exercise physiologist? What were your sort of day-to-day duties in that regard? That's
a great question. Another one you often get asked.
Yeah.
That one's really hard to summarise because every day is slightly different. To, I guess, capture some themes of what we do, we're looking at the planning side, so being involved with the coaches in their training planning and periodisation, looking at where camps and comps are and what training loads should look like for each individual athlete. So to do that well, you have to understand the physiological profile of the athlete. So then there's the testing. And throughout uni, you kind of get taught, VO2 max test, lactate test, and, some ECG tests, which
Yeah, I think you taught me that.
I did. I did. I was like, I should do some research and see if I can find my notes from when I
Oh
assessed
my
you.
God, no one wants that.
No, I really did want it. I thought it would be funny, but no, for the record, sensational student. Really thought that you were going to go into sports science, and that is the career. But
Wow, that's recorded too. I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
no worries. Whether it's true or not, we can't really validate that data. But anyway, no. So yeah, the testing, which you do VO2 max tests maybe 3 times a year. So going through uni, you kind of think I'm going to do this all the time, like every week, but you definitely don't. So a lot more of it is training monitoring and using training data to assess progression or regression, and then that's when the interventions happen and the discussions. But there's also a lot of meetings and a lot of time spent behind the laptop, which I probably underestimated as well when I was going through uni. I just think it's always going to be athlete and coach interaction, but there's a lot of thinking time and how can I do this better and how can I support this athlete better. Some of my favourite things were the environmental adaptations. So we've done heat adaptation interventions.
So
Either
training.
training in heat or warm weather camps. But I love altitude. So altitude tent prescription, making sure the athletes are adapting to the altitude camps. So I was lucky enough to go onto international altitude camps as a physiologist, and just
Where do they do that in Australia?
Within Australia, Thredbo is the highest swimming pool, and then hike up Kosciuszko, which we were chatting about before. So we know crazy people that want to run it for 100 miles.
Yeah.
And then overseas, I went to Flagstaff in Arizona twice. So Australia doesn't have very high altitude. So if you tried overseas, yeah. So that's a snapshot. And then you've got internal meetings, workshops, development. There's a lot of internal organisational upskilling. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's sick. The reason I ask is because I want to sort of start normalising and introduce more sports science stuff to the action and adventure sport communities, because I just feel like they're so behind in so many ways. Even just the basics, then they're not quite doing just yet. And like I've got work experience at like Cricket Australia and the Broncos and like these high performance settings where every little tiny 1%er is getting ticked off, down to their nutrition, down to their training loads, the athletes reporting on AMS, every bit of sleep. And then you see elite surfers and snowboarders just like, and they're getting a lot better. I do want to also say that, like Surfing Australia are doing amazing things now, mainly also because of surfing being in the Olympics now. It's also brought a lot more money and funding, which,
Always
as we know, helps.
Yeah.
So it's moving in the right direction, but I'd love for one day all of this sort of stuff to sort of be just the norm in these action and adventure sports, because there's so much potential to improve current performance. And it's really cool. Love the work that everyone's doing at QAS there. It's such a sick setup, and they've actually just got haven't they just got a new pool with the aerial stuff for the skiers now? Is that at QAS?
Yeah, so that's at Chandler.
That
one's, so it's actually, I guess you couldn't really say it's a new pool now. The pool itself has been there, but they built the ski ramps.
Oh, okay.
And it's going now into the outdoor pool. I think that, you could say it's new like in the last 20 years. I don't actually remember when.
The ramps new.
The ramps are, last, I don't also know, but I'm going to say 4 years, last 4 years.
Yeah, okay. Because I just saw some of the Australian snowboard guys posting stories of being in Brizzy in Chandler, and I'm just like, what are they doing up here?
Yeah, I've been up the top, and it's hectic.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
I can't say I'd, have the guts to go down there on skis, but good on them.
Yeah, it's one of those things, especially the snow-based sports. You don't, even like a half pipe and the jumps, you don't realise watching on TV how big those things are until you stand on top of it and go, holy shit. It's, it's pretty nuts.
Yeah. Do you want to get back to the jump rope?
Oh, absolutely,
Last 10 years?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
The main reason, and I'm so keen to learn more about this, competitive jump rope. where do we start? Actually, let's start with maybe your personal experience, so how it sort of got introduced into your life.
Yeah.
You said you had some time off during that period of time. What's that sort of been
Yep.
like?
Yep. We'll start from the start.
Yeah.
When I was 8 years old.
Yeah.
So basically I got into it because I saw, this is also just adds to the unique story of being a jump roper. I saw a demonstration by a local club called Cleveland Air Magic at a strawberry festival. Like out of all of the things where you would see a skipping demonstration at a strawberry festival. So I was 8, very young, and had skipped in the playground, just like as most kids do, as stereotypically girls. It's a schoolyard thing. Yep, I'm one of those stereotypes. But once I saw this demonstration, I saw a girl. She's a legend in the Australian skipping system, skipping, jump rope, same. Bonnie Summers. She did a backsalto in the middle of double Dutch ropes, and I just remember thinking like, yep, that is what I want to do. And of course, standing next to Mum, I was like, yep, Mum, sort this out.
Yeah.
And
Get
she
me
did.
some goddamn ropes.
Yeah, she did. She did better than that. She organised for the club to come to my school, do a workshop, and then through the workshop and the demonstration at school, they invited myself and one other to come and train with the club. And then I never left, although I did,
Wow.
but a long time later.
Yeah.
So let's say that was like maybe October that year. I trained with them for, I think it was supposed to be a 2-week trial. And then they did a end of year in-house like club competition, and I entered into what was called long double unders, and it's just consecutive double unders, as many as you can do till you make a mistake or you fatigue. And as an 8-year-old, I got 214.
Consecutive.
Yeah. I got my first ever trophy, and then I was hooked on winning.
Also a world record?
No.
Surely that's...
Maybe for an 8-year-old. But that was my first taste of competition, winning, and I really liked it.
So can we just zoom in there? A double under. So that's the rope's going around you fully twice per lifting off the ground.
Correct.
Like, per jump.
Yeah. And that one was like, go at your own pace, but it has to be double under, double under, double under, double. It can't be double under. Skip, double under.
And how long would 200 actually take?
Yeah, I'm going to say about 3 minutes. As a complete guess.
Yeah, okay.
Look, I haven't repeated it for a long time.
Because you're doing like, what, 1 per second would be... Is that quick?
No.
Oh, yeah, of course it'd be faster than that. You'd
Yeah.
be like nearly 2 a second, right?
Yeah.
Something like that?
Yeah.
That's a long time of going
Yeah.
pretty hard
Yeah.
at that age.
Yeah.
That's
It
very
actually
impressive.
blows my mind.
Yeah.
Thinking back on it now and trying to do 200 double unders now, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, this is exhausting.
Youth, hey? How
Youth,
good.
yeah, and also winning, how good. So anyway, then I was hooked.
Yep.
And then the year after, I was put into a team. So this was all like learning. Didn't know there were teams. Didn't know what a team was. So a team is five athletes, and teams events have 4 athletes on the floor at one time. So you can like make up different combos depending on the event. Yep. And I went over to America in Colorado, actually, Pan American Championships 2001, and our team won. It was the maybe 9 to 11 age category or something. And then again, a little taste of winning.
At that age.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Also within that little trip, side note, survived a tornado. So we got evacuated and everything. It was like quite crazy as a 9-year-old.
You had
But
the full American experience.
oh, sensational. And then, from there, my first World Championships were 3 years later, and they were Junior World Championships. And then did 3 more World Championships, going all around the world. It was an amazing experience traveling. And I finished up in 2010 with competition so that I could focus on uni, because I thought, I've like given this a solid crack, and just wanted to focus on uni, especially at that time. jump rope wasn't considered a sport in Australia. And so world champs aligned with end of semester 1 exam block. And because it wasn't officially a sport, there was no consideration. So I thought, okay, that's second year. That's going to line up with fourth year, which is going to be the most important.
Worse, yeah.
So I chose to hang up the ropes, so they say, and focus on uni. And like at that time, I was not really sad about it. I was like pretty ready.
But when you say hang up the ropes, I can't imagine you didn't do any skipping. You just didn't compete, right? Were you still doing stuff?
I mean, I don't really actually remember still skipping during that time. Because I got into running, and I was obsessed with running. I love running, actually. Whereas when I skipped, I never ran. I was like, it's not skipping. Don't want to do that.
I'd love to dive more into that because when I so for me, it sounds like I've never competed surfing, but surfing and running are things where, like, if I was to hang up the board or hang up the shoes, like, even just mentally, like, I really struggle with not having that outlet to just go and, like, surfing's very therapeutic, so I was running. Do you sort of get that as well from skipping?
Yeah, I do.
Did you feel anything during that time you stopped? I mean,
it's hard to remember, but I think because I found, like, runner's high.
Yeah, okay.
Running.
Sort of replaced that.
Really, it's all in. When you're all in.
Yeah, bloody hell.
I found that, and also started to learn more about, like, strength and conditioning, because it actually didn't do very much, if any, when I was competing as a jump rope athlete. But yeah, doing the exercise and sports science degree, you're exposed to all of the benefits, and you're like, oh, I should have been doing that and that and that and that and that. I started getting into that a little bit more, and I mean, I didn't really miss skipping. I did a little, like, comeback where I trained for 1 month and I went to state champs, because you don't really have to qualify to go to states, in 2015, just to have fun. And I was, like, trialing all these, like, sports science things in the lead up, like, let's see what I can do with 1 month of training. And, like, did all right, like, had fun. And then I was like, that's enough for another few years. But then I got back into it because two things. So during COVID, jump rope blew up around the whole world. It's like Instagram sensation. Anybody that looks up jump rope will see Lauren Jumps, who is the face of jump rope online.
I even follow, yeah.
Honestly, everybody does. She's got over 1 million followers. Just some girl in London who lost her job during COVID, started skipping in the backyard for mental health outlet and fitness, and blew up the internet. And to her credit, she does such a good job at content creation and has shone a light on the fact that adults can jump rope. It's not the stereotype, and you can learn new things. So I got back into it then because I saw all of these jump rope accounts. So many people creating jump rope specific accounts, and now I'm one of them.
Yeah, that's
it. A
little plug. What's yours called for those out there wanting to follow some good jump rope content?
Yeah, look, it's called Power of Jump Rope.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't mind changing the name, but
okay,
at this stage it's called Power of Jump Rope. But everyone's is like Kirstin Jumps, Ricky Jumps, or Ricky Jump Rope. Anyway.
Well, when we release this podcast, we'll update in the notes what the if you do change the little tag.
We'll see. But it's called Power of Jump Rope because during all this time I was like, hang on a minute, I have so much knowledge about how to learn jump rope, how to do jump rope. So I created a program with one of my old teammates, who is now one of my best friends, and is one of the world's best, most incredible jump rope athletes the world has ever seen. Luke Boone, follow him on Instagram as well, have your mind blown. So we teamed up and we created a program, and we called it Power of 21 jump rope program. And so my Instagram used to be Power of 21. Anyway, it was like 21 sessions, and we released it in 2021. And within the first 6 months, we had people across 18 countries had purchased the program, and we were doing like online engagement with each person, and it was just so incredible to see all these different types of people around the world picking up the rope and learning from scratch all of the amazing things that you can do with a rope. And all of the feedback was just so lovely. It was so nice to just meet these people. So it was incredible. And then from that, I got asked to be president of Skipping Queensland. And I was like, oh, yeah, I know high performance sport. So, yeah, why not? And then I got nominated in. And I was like, oh, I don't know how to be a president. What does this even mean?
Are you still the president now?
No, no. I was going to. Ideally, I would have done 2-year stint because the first year I was like, what is this? And where should I take it? But then this year I got married, got a new job.
You had a little bit on this year.
And decided that a comeback would be just the greatest idea, and went to my 5th World Championship. So I was like, I wanted to be president because I was completely independent, wasn't affiliated with any club at that time, had the high performance sport experience and mindset, and thought I could make changes here. And then I wasn't an athlete at that time, so I was like, we'll just focus all of this. But then, yeah, this year's just been a bit manic. And, I just thought I'm not going to do a good enough job, like I said, all in before. And I knew that I wasn't going to be all in there. But that's what got me back into it, because I was like, well, if I'm president and I'm organising state championships and I have to be there, then I might as well compete. It's a world's qualifying year. Let's have a crack. And state champs was like a rude shock to competing as an old person.
That's an old person.
Yeah. But
what's the sort of average age then? Of
average age
most?
of like, I reckon prime time is probably like 22 to 25. Yeah, I'm older than that. Yuck. But I loved it. I was like getting back up and just having a go. I loved it. And again, decided, I'll go to nationals and see if I can qualify. And qualified, and I was like, oh, now I have to find money. Because I could have withdrawn and said, no, it's okay. But I thought, you know what, probably not going to do this in another 2 years. So why not have a crack? And went to World Champs in Colorado. So it was like a full circle. First competition to my last one, Colorado to Colorado, and all over in between. So
that is incredible.
Yeah.
Damn. Well, there is so much to unpack there.
Yeah.
One thing we'll come back to at the end of the programs you've made, and I love hearing that little story, because anyone that knows the story of Flow Nutrition, which was previously Surf Science, I actually started in COVID making S&C plans for surfers. That's how I started everything. It had nothing to do with nutrition. When COVID hit, I just had all this time, and I was just like, how can I provide value to the surfing community? Let's make some S&C programs. So I went down to the gym and filmed all this stuff and made all these PDFs and started selling them to surfers. But it's just so cool, because that's practically exactly what you've done with your plans. And you can just, that time during COVID, you could either make the most of it, or you could just sit back and, I don't know, not play the victim card, but just, like let the world rule. But I love the fact you've just stepped up, and it's probably that entrepreneurial mindset you've got there. You just see the opportunity and you just pounced on it. But what I really want to touch on is all these, for those who can't see, in front of us we've got all these medals, different ropes. So you've mentioned world champs, nationals, all these comps. You've had a lot of experience. For us newbies that don't know anything about jump rope, I guess, can we start with an explanation of the different disciplines? Mm-hmm. We've got different ropes here. Like, how does it work? What are we doing at these national champs?
Yeah. Okay, so break it down. There's individual events and there's team events. So as I slightly touched on teams before. Individuals I'll explain first, because that's way more simple. That's by yourself to start with. There's 4 events in an individual competition. So the world body is IJRU, International Jump Rope Union. In an IJRU competition, you have a 30-second speed, so that's the jogging on the spot, as fast as you can go for 30 seconds. You have a 3-minute speed, which is just horrible. Least favourite event, just for the record, on the record, the worst. So again, as fast as you can go, 3 minutes jogging on the spot, and the rope goes under each foot every time. And then you have individual freestyle. So this is a 75-second choreographed routine. Even though it's called freestyle, it's like kind of oxymoron. And it's choreographed to music with, I guess it's similar to the floor routine in gymnastics where you have the difficulty, the presentation, and each skill has a different level and you can combine them and there's required elements. So you've got to do like multiples, so changing from single bounce to a double, not to a double bounce, to a double under or a triple under or a quadruple under or even now quintuple under. Some people are just killing it. You've got to do gymnastics or power, so like mule kick or a push-up or split, back salt if you're up to that level, front salt, whatever it is. Releases, so you have to let go of the handle and catch it at some part of your routine. And then wraps as well is another one. I might have forgotten some others, but... A wrap, it's so much easier to just demonstrate, but so let's say you're doing a side swing, like on the side, the rope wraps around your limb, and then you somehow unwrap it and keep skipping. So that's like a crazy basic one. Some people will wrap around their whole bodies, through their legs, like sometimes both, like two limbs are wrapped up at some stage, and then out of nowhere, they just keep skipping and you're like, ow, I don't know how you did that. But yeah, that's the individual freestyle. That one's my favorite. When you talk about flow, like for me, it's that. For others, it's speed.
Yeah. Well, it's like dancing, right? It's like
yeah.
Even like a freestyle, like break dancing thing where you've got the different elements of... Is there a judging criteria?
Yeah, so there's...
in each one of those that you just said?
Yes. Yeah, so there's judging courses online. Anybody can get accredited if you really want to. Come to the next Worlds in Japan. Nice little plug. We need more judges in Australia. It explains everything as well from scratch, because I guess a lot of the people who do judge are parents or siblings that get dragged along to competitions or ex-jump rope athletes, usually the people coming along. But it explains it really well on their online portal. The other event is consecutive triple unders. So I mentioned double unders before. Triples is the rope goes under the feet 3 times per jump. And that's the only event in the whole program that if you make a mistake, you're out. So it's the only elimination type of event. All others, if you make a mistake, you just
so
keep
even
going
in the double one,
as fast.
if you hit your foot or something, you can restart and keep going?
The consecutive doubles that I mentioned earlier when I was 8, that's not a real event.
Oh, right. Yeah. Right.
I think that's like the 8-year-old version of the triple unders.
The triple.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah, without the load on the body. So consecutive triple unders, another one of my absolute favorites. So I like the more power-based events rather than the speed. Never really been great at speed, but actually just this comeback, I've kind of enjoyed the training for speed a bit more because it's more of that cardiovascular hit and lower impact on my limbs, joints that are slowly fading. Yeah.
They're nearly completely different sports. Like if you think back to running, you've simply it's like you're doing a 100-meter sprint versus a 10K time trial. Like they're completely different sports, right? So you can sort of break that up into speed, power, endurance, and freestyle. Is that the sort of general vibe?
Yeah. Yep.
I'm guessing one of the questions I'm super interested to ask you here is around your training, because as I said, like you're either a 100-meter sprinter or you're an endurance athlete. How do you sort of do cross training? Do you just pick one of those to focus on in your training? Do you do some cross training?
Yeah.
How do you approach that?
I guess in an ideal world, the ideal world would be very different to what I actually did. I guess I was training around work, but also since I was competing back in the day, I've had a complete ATFL, CFL, deep deltoid rupture, and all other things going wrong with the other leg and the other knee. So I really had to modulate around that. I probably targeted energy system development more than the type of skipping that I did. I guess the freestyle, because that's my favorite, it's my go-to. I would prefer to do that any day of the week, but it's high impact. So quite often I would just walk through the gym like with my headphones on, coming up with a routine, and then it was actually a lot of the imagery, because it happens so fast. Like every jump, there's a different trick. There's no repeated tricks in the 75 seconds. And with the energy system, like I actually targeted the 3-minute speed as the main event that I trained for, because World Champs was at altitude. And so I knew that I had to be aerobically strong to be able to bounce back and compete event after event after event. So all of those individual events, aside from triple unders, I did 4 events in the space of 3 hours at altitude. So you've got the
Well, that's a whole other consideration.
I know. And I think I was at an advantage because I knew that's going to be bloody hard to bounce back in that time. So I had really focused actually on aerobic development. And the cross training, I did like a lot of bike
Running
stuff.
would have helped there. Were you still doing a fair bit of running during, or just...
I wish so badly, but that was the thing that hit my knee. Like it flared it up every single time. It was running and the triple unders. And the triple unders was what I actually really wanted to peak at this year. And I mean, I mentioned the fact that it's the only event where you get eliminated, and out of nowhere, it clipped my foot at 99. And I felt like I was ready for PB, which PB was 164. And I was like, I'm ready to just fly. Like, that's what triple unders feels like sometimes. You're just flying. And yeah, just out of nowhere, I was like, you're joking. You watch the video, I'm like, no, what? Like, just shock and disbelief. Like, that's it. See ya. You're out. And I was not even buggered. Like, come on, I'm so aerobically fit and ready. But it's all right. Japan, 2025.
So I want to dive into that feeling. You just said, like, you feel like you can fly. What sort of components add into and contribute towards that feeling? Is it just good tempo with the rope?
Yeah.
What are you actually feeling in there?
I guess with triple unders, it's so precisely timed, and the feeling is, that's a hard one. The thought is just absent. I think that's the thing. You just trust that the rope is going to go under your feet 3 times. You're going to land, rebound, and the rope will just keep going. And it's almost like you're not focusing, but you're also focusing. Like, it's crazy.
That is absolutely gold right there. It's explaining flow state is the hardest thing in the world, because it's a feeling. It's like, and for some people, you know, you get reports of, as you said, like your mind is absent. You take a step back and let your body do it. But other times, we have like creative flow where you're just thinking so much, but all these dots are connecting and everything's just working. And so it's cool to hear that, skipping, and I assume that would be the case going in. There would be more of an absence thing where you sit back and let your body do what it knows it can do. Because most sort of action and adventure sports are similar to that, where, you know, if you're flying down the trails really fast on a bike, you're not consciously thinking of every tree or every turn. It just sort of happens. And that's a really cool experience.
It's actually really interesting when you talk about that, because I was just thinking about my individual freestyle at World Championships. Because I wasn't able to practice a lot of the power skills, I think that's previously been like the flow through a freestyle has probably been my strength, because it just happens. Whereas because I wasn't able to practice all of the power as much as I would have liked, if you watch the video back, there's like this one moment where I just have like this brief thought, like, what's next? And it threw it like completely. It was probably like 0.5 of a second thought. And you can pinpoint, she's thinking about it then. And it just, you like lose coordination. It's like the video glitches. And you're like, no, that was actually me.
Yeah. So what strategies do you use? So let's say, and I've watched a couple of your videos. I went on your Instagram page, and for anyone who wants to check out jump rope stuff, jump on Kirst's page and check it out, because the footage is unreal.
Thank you.
Yeah, you get a really quick appreciation for how fast the rope's moving, how intense the sport is.
Yeah.
But what are you thinking about when you're standing there in the square, all the judges are staring at you, the time's about to go? How do you switch your mind into that flow state? Do you use any strategies at all?
For individual freestyle, I actually don't think so. I think I'm just like quite smiley, like,
Yeah.
like yeah, I got this. Kind of like because you know that's your strength. That one's fine. For triples, I do the same, like prep skips. So you're allowed to have prep skips before you go straight into triples. You don't have to go triple under. So I always do 4 single skips, 2 doubles. No, I don't. 4 single skips, 1 double, and then go into triples. So that's always the same, even though I just got it wrong then. But I think it's because I'm not actually doing it, like to verbalize what I do versus just you just do it. That's triple under time. Like there's no other time I would do 4 skips, 1 double. It's just not a thing.
So you said you're very smiley as well at the start there. What sort of self-talk, if there's any, is going on during that time? Or are you completely just switched off in that regard?
I'm pretty switched off. Yeah. I think back when I did teams, haven't even explained teams.
Oh, yeah.
Back when I did teams, I was far more invested in the team. I was team captain of our team, and we were reigning world champions. 3 consecutive worlds in a row. And so the pressure builds a little bit there, but it's always like, we've got this. Like, that's more the talk. We've got this. Like, patience, I guess. Calm. Like, because when you're nervous and you're in an event where you're synchronizing with 3 other people most of the time, you can't be too fast. It just throws it like crazy. So I guess in teams events, these are the ones I miss. Like, I really miss the double Dutch events. It's something I can't train for by myself up here. And when you were talking to me about flow and like, let's discuss flow in jump rope, the one event that stood out to me actually wasn't any of the individual ones. It was the team double Dutch. And I thought this would be pretty cool because there's probably not a lot of other sports that you talk about where people are actually connected and all have to be in the same flow at the same time, but potentially using different strategies because you're actually connected by the rope. So the double Dutch speed, this one I don't have videos on my Instagram, so I'll have to somehow share a link. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. It's just the best event. But it's like the audio goes, like, judges ready, skippers ready, set, and then there's a beep. And within like half a second, the double Dutch ropes are going. And the jumper jumps in and is like flying with the speed step, but has to be exactly in time with the 2 turners who have to be exactly in time. Otherwise the ropes are not hitting the ground at the same. Like, it's unbelievable. And so there's 2 double Dutch speed events. There's a 1 by 60 seconds, so one person just jumps for 60 seconds. Australia got gold in that one actually at the recent World Champs, so sensational club from Cleveland, actually. Yeah, Luke's team. But yeah, he was turning, so he wasn't actually jumping. Ben Cooper was the jumper. Unbelievable. I'm pretty sure he got something absurd, like 400 steps in 1 minute in double Dutch. 400 skips. Yeah. Absurd.
I'm not good at math, but how many is that per second? 60
know.
seconds, 400.
If you just quickly pause.
I actually couldn't like run on the spot that fast.
It's unbelievable. I have to get the video.
Is there footage of that?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I'll send that through.
That would be amazing.
Yeah. That's the one I miss. I was never that good.
Yeah.
It's insane.
But group flow is amazing. There's a really good book from Stephen Kotler called The Rise of Superman, where he looks into group dynamics with flow state, and they have examples from like corporate business meetings to like even Red Bull. There's a team of like aerial. I forget the name of what they
the
are.
divers
like
out
the gliders.
Yeah,
with,
yeah.
like the wingsuits and stuff.
Yeah.
And they had this course which is all through buildings where they're like millimeters away from each other, but they could just sense what the person next to them is doing, and like group flow, even in like aeroplane pilots when they're going real close together and all that acrobatic stuff. Like, I don't know too much about it. It's something that I want to learn a lot more about. But when you see it in action, it is beautiful.
Yeah.
And I'm picturing that with your double Dutch.
It's unbelievable.
Crew.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I just want to show you now. Like, it's okay. We can do that later.
Yeah, I'll check that out too.
Yeah, so that's...
Yeah.
And then there's another one that's a 4x30 second relay. So it's the same thing, as fast as you can go for 30 seconds, and then it says switch, and that jumper has to jump out and start turning as the next person jumps in. And like the transitions happen within 1 second. So it says switch, and everybody has to know exact rate to slow down so that there's no mistakes getting out. And then the next person comes in, and the turners have to adjust to whatever that pace is. And everybody's slightly different. Like, you rarely get every single person have the same score.
Is there any
amazing
communication that goes on between the three people? Is it
Yeah.
subtle hand movements in the rope? Is it eye contact?
Yeah, it's rarely eye contact because in the double Dutch speed, the jumper faces just one person, and so the turner behind them can't obviously see their eyes. Usually they'll use a hand signal, like lower or faster, with their palm up or palm down. But even just knowing how much slower, how much faster, is a skill. Like, that's probably what they spend most time training, is just getting to know each other in the double Dutch speed. I also judged at World Champs. So I was a counter for the Open World Championships and the Grand Finals for double Dutch speed, which is absolutely panicking. So they count only the right foot and then double the score, because otherwise it's just impossible.
You
And
need
it's
a
cool.
slow-mo camera to actually watch it back over.
Well, they do. So they
Oh, yeah.
film every event, and then there's a video review team in the back. So 3 video reviewers per person, but one person counting live on the floor, because they have the screens and the scores come up live. So it's like 6 stations on the floor or 12 stations, depending on what it is, and everybody can watch who's winning. It's so cool, but you have to get it right. And so it was really interesting seeing the different countries, because some were like yelling in their own language. You can have one person come and be in your square. And it threw me, like, for some of them, because some countries, I think the Japanese were like every 3rd step they would say something to like keep a rhythm. And I was like, I'm not used to that. I'm used to 10, 10,
That's
10.
off-putting.
Like, it was so off-putting. I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
trying to count you.
Yeah.
You're so fast. Slow down. Or shush up. But they are also amazing. So in Japan, they almost only specialize in double Dutch. They almost don't do freestyle at all as a culture. There are a couple who are incredible freestylers, or single rope. But it's so cool as well, seeing all the different countries. They're very unique. At the moment, the male and the female world champions are both Koreans, actually, which is very different to when I was competing 13 years ago. Yeah. And they are unbelievable. Yeah. Unbelievable. So good.
Jeez. I need to get to it at a live event. I just need to see it in person. But the videos are pretty cool, watching them.
Yeah.
But I see we've got some ropes in front of you here. So you said one of
Yeah.
them's like a speed rope, and some
Yep.
others have different functions. Run us through the equipment side of things. Even like, do you have jump rope shoes? Like, what else do you have? Or it's just the rope itself that...
Yes,
sort of
it's
changes
mostly
up?
the rope, and I think that's like one of the best things about it, is that it's technically a cheap sport, unless of course you choose to travel overseas unfunded.
At least
Then
you can
it's
travel
not cheap.
light too. You don't have to,
You can
don't have to
travel light.
haul some golf clubs across the world or something.
Yeah.
Just got a little light rope.
Yeah, I mean, like, we had a couple of countries from Africa even come to Worlds. So, like, Rwanda had a team. And the fact that, like, a country who's not renowned for wealth can come and travel to actually quite an expensive part of the world with jump rope is so cool. But yeah, with us, I've got a beaded rope, a PVC rope, and this one's Teflon wire. With this one actually doesn't have ball bearing rotation handles, but it does rotate. There's also like coated wire and just plain wire. These are the ones that I just had sitting around in my car, so I thought I would bring them out. A little bit of show and tell. I've got the beaded rope and the PVC rope both have long handles. So the long handles are definitely helpful for freestyle tricks, particularly those that involve crossing over the body or behind the body, under the legs, over the head, however you choose to skip.
And also catching, right? If you were to let go of it, you got more sort of surface area to catch.
Yeah, when you do the releases.
Yeah.
Excellent for the releases. I guess the main difference between the beaded rope and the PVC is just the weight and the feedback that you get. I guess the proprioceptive feedback, if that's the correct term. Been a few years since uni. So the beaded ropes are heavier, and it's quite handy when you're just learning different skills. It gives you a bit more understanding of where the rope is and where it's perhaps traveling. And also helps you modulate the speed that you're rotating the rope. It's also good for conditioning because it is that little bit heavier. And then the PVC, it just helps when you're doing cool tricks and multiples because it's a bit lighter, so it's not as much effort to rotate the rope around your body.
For those listeners, the PVC one, just looking at it, it sort of reminds me of what we had back at school, like those Heart Sport. They're a bit thicker, those skipping ropes, just the old white ones that they had at schools. That's more of what we're talking about there. And this wire one is literally just a piece of wire. Yeah. Very thin, very
super
lightweight.
Light, yeah. This one cuts through the air. Big time. And
so
actually,
for any speed events, I'm guessing.
Yeah. This one's my triple under and double under rope. Yeah. Whereas for speed, like the jogging step, I actually prefer a slightly heavier one. But, I mean, speed's not my best event, so maybe don't listen to that advice. Stick to what the bros do.
And also I'm thinking for like endurance, right? Like people go so hardcore with lightweight shoes for endurance for just more efficiency. I'm guessing if you're doing a 3-minute all-out sort of sprint thing, like you wouldn't want anything heavy, like the lighter, like the less force as well going through the wrists.
Whereas like if you're doing the multiples and triple unders, you kind of want something to absorb a little bit of the impact. Because of my fantastic ankle injury, I've got orthotics, so it can't be like crazy light, like still have to fit them in there. But other things that a lot of the girls have skipping hairstyles because the hair whips into the rope and can sometimes whip into your eye, which is actually really a pain in the ass. So a lot of the most common hairstyle is braids because it's just out of the way. There's a
lot of parallels with running here.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's something you've found as well.
Yeah. And then, people have their skipping rope bags and there's a lot of tools. So I learned how to use like Allen keys because these are adjustable with tiny little Allen keys. And then the old ones used to have like nuts and bolts, but these have now got like little clips for adjusting the length. Yeah. So it's pretty cool. Yeah, pretty cool.
That's amazing. I am very cautious of time here. There is something else I wanted to touch on. So with your really cool, unique blend of exercise science, jump rope, and on the topic of like progressing these sorts of sports that are somewhat underdeveloped, where do you see potential for, let's say someone wanted to start a PhD in jump rope exercise science? What would be your first thing you'd want to push?
I would say call me. I'll be a supervisor. Because honestly, I've got obviously so much knowledge about the sport. I have so many research topics lined up ready to go.
I knew you would. That's why I asked. I had the same thing with surfing. I was like, these are all the things I want to... would you look at the training, the actual execution, the nutrition, what would you
Well, we could collaborate and look at the nutrition.
Oh yeah.
I
Some fueling
think,
strategies.
yeah, I honestly think because it is so untapped, basics first. I actually just agreed to be coaching director of Skipping Australia, so I'm going to work on a little, I guess, education program on building basics, like what are the foundations. Because at the moment, most of the coaches within our country are either passionate parents, school teachers, or ex-skippers who have come through. And then, as we probably, a lot of people would know, a lot of coaches who have been athletes coach the way that they were coached. So yeah, just like developing some educational resources on what is high performance and what would the basics be. Like if you had no money, how would you improve performance? And it's usually just the basics. You don't actually have to splash out. I think S&C is completely untapped in the sport.
Well, even before that, right? Like you need to even establish the physical demands of the sport first. Probably you could do.
There
some
are
sort
a couple
of
of research papers.
Oh.
A couple
Yeah.
coming out of like the Asian countries, and yeah, the Asian countries at the moment are absolutely dominating. As well as our Australian club from Brisbane. Yeah, I mean, there's actually an Australian club from Canberra as well who's really up and coming and developing a lot of amazing skippers. But anyway, there's so many things that you could do, but I actually would suggest the basics. Yeah. Honestly, it would have a huge bang for your buck. Like I spoke about at the very beginning, you want research to have practical and measurable impact. That would have impact in the sport. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I just love thinking of ideas in areas where you can actually pioneer research and be the first in an area, because that's so rare now in sports science. Like a lot of these traditional sports, you know, you could publish the 150th article on hamstring injuries in soccer, right? But what I love is talking to people like in surfing, for example. We have guys like Jeremy Shepherd and Oliver Farley who have quite literally like pioneered the sport and research, and the opportunity to be like, okay, there is nothing in this area, where do we start? I think that is freaking amazing. And there's a girl over in New Zealand at the moment doing that, doing her PhD in skating, and she's going through a very similar thing. We're having chats around like, where do you start? There's nothing at all done. And when you talk about research having the impact, it's like that's where the impact's going to come from, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so I was really interested in what you think.
I think there's like heaps
skating.
Heaps of stuff.
Yeah, skipping. Yeah.
I spoke with over at World Champs. There was a ex-skipper who has done, I can't even remember his degree, but it's like software engineering, and he's come up with this app that automatically counts the skips and via video. And so I've been talking to him about, okay, there's so many things we could do with that will help profile the sport, because there's like nothing on pacing strategies. There's nothing on, unless you manually
pacing strategies. That's a cool.
It's an easy one as well, especially
do
like
you
we
have
were
pacing
talking
strategies
about
when you're up there?
Yes, but it's something that I've never questioned. It's something I've learnt from the start.
Well, think about
even
running.
split,
That's all about pacing, right?
Exactly.
That's the whole game.
Yep. And the fact that you're doing running equivalent of 100 meter sprint, let's say like 200 to 400, because of 30 seconds, 3 minutes. What are you doing in that? 1500? Maybe not 1500.
I mean, not me.
I mean, me on the weekends. No, maybe an 800. Yeah, and like how on earth are people even if you just captured what training people do for to be a 30-second expert and a 3-minute, because quite often you see the same people on the podium. Like how? What is their energy system? What are they doing? Yeah, it is wild. Even you could do that analysis on the results and see where people rank.
You can do retrospective analysis.
Exactly.
The data's there.
So many things. Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Also, all of the video footage from the last World Champs is still on the website. So if you want to watch like a whole week's
Oh,
worth
cool.
of competition,
Yeah.
it's all there.
Oh, there's your
Yeah.
first retrospective study for a
Yeah.
PhD right there.
Yeah.
Go and do a performance analysis.
Yeah. There's no performance analysis either. Like, I'll tell you as well, the speed technique has changed over the years. And now, instead of, like most people bent over probably from like thoracic over, they're now flipped at the hips pretty much. And it's almost like they've halved their body so that they can half their rope length so that there's less force required for the rope to rotate. But then you've got the impact on the lower back. It's unbelievable. Like, you look at them from behind, you can't see their head.
Actually, wouldn't that just mean then if you're shorter, you'd have a massive competitive advantage?
Yeah, so TRD. Yep. There's heaps.
Yeah.
It's so untapped. That's what I mean. Call me.
Yeah, wow.
Seriously.
Just
Yeah.
athlete profiling to start with, and then some sort of needs analysis on what is the sport, what does it require, and then that's cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
I could chat about that all day.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, I would love to have more time to run all of this by myself, but that's just my personality type. And I don't have enough time to do that. So I honestly love to collaborate. Yeah.
Well, that's
It'd
a
be so
big
cool.
part of the brand that I'm building. That's what I want to do, is promote more research in these sorts of sports, right? And,
Yeah.
predominantly it would start in nutritional strategies to help them. But, I tell people all the time, like, I'm dreaming big with this brand. Like, I want to create something as big as bloody Red Bull, and I want to have a department that's like focused on research in action adventure sports and flow state, and have like, imagine like the world leading flow state research department where you can find these little sports and pump money where it should go, not just where the country's going to win gold medals, which
Well, we would win.
we probably
Yeah. Well, if
That's
they keep
cool.
it up. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's amazing. Then you can do the whole physio side and like profile all of the injuries and then look at mechanics and what's contributing to them. There's honestly so much. But I actually love your idea of that vision. That is so cool.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm like, what could I do? Anybody want to jump rope?
Yeah, well, I love the conceptualization of the ideas. I love like the management side of things. So my dream, once I finish the PhD, because you've got to do that first, is actually managing a team of researchers to like go and conduct it all. So like, I would love to be a supervisor for students down the track and help develop the research questions, like analyze these sports, and that's what really gets me excited.
Yeah.
The actual process. I just think, I'm not doing an ethics proposal.
Yeah. I mean, for everybody starting out, ethics proposals are really good fun, and
so-
you should do it.
Of
Yep.
course. Well, look, to finish off, I just wanted to touch on that, the power of jump rope stuff that you're doing and the programs that you have up on there.
Mm-hmm.
If someone's listening to this, and I'm hoping people who are skipping at the moment do listen to this, but for the majority like me, who I haven't done it since I was 6 years old at school with that heart rope that they gave you at
Yep.
lunchtime, these programs are designed for beginners, is that right?
Yeah. They
And
are.
where can they get them from?
On the Jump Force International website. So it's jumpforceint.com.au.
Mm-hmm.
I'll send the link in case
Yep.
I got it wrong. And then
And
there's
what
a
do they
power.
involve?
There's a Power of 21 page specific for the program, and basically you get a YouTube link for each session, and then the written out program. We might be doing a bit of a reshuffle on how we actually go about it, but at the moment you would just receive the YouTube links. They're about 20 to 30 minutes per session. You can go through at your own pace. You can repeat sessions as many times as you want. But it does progress from absolute like basics, rope length, single jump, where to place your hands, all the way up, and you actually end up doing a routine at the end. So we like build up little skills, and there's also the fitness component in there as well. So some sessions have a power set, and it's like more targeted at cardiovascular overall conditioning. But there's skill development, which is all explained by Luke, who is the master of the whole world of jump rope, if you ask me, and if you ask
So
actually
you're
a lot of
literally
people.
learning from the best.
Yeah. And then I was kind of the background, helping write the programs and do a lot of the like answering the questions. So what I love doing is receiving videos of people being like, I'm stuck on this skill, what's going wrong? Because I easily pick out your hands too high on this side, or like if you're getting whipped on this leg, it means this is happening with the rope. So just having that really like connected understanding of the rope and its movements. I'm doing a little bit of that at the moment with a girl from America, and also got a girl from New Zealand. And I say girl, they're like women, like 30 to 40 age category. The one from New Zealand, I wasn't doing any official coaching with, but would just send her like little comments on Instagram. And she's started skipping New Zealand now and has met with the head of New Zealand Sport, really trying to get it up and running in New Zealand. Previously, never existed there. So it's amazing the power of just like sending little tips via Instagram and connecting with people. And she's actually flown over.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, the online jump rope community. Like if you look up jump rope community as a hashtag, there's honestly so many posts.
That's cool. And probably especially since COVID, right? And
yep. Yeah. It's all
like
this
that,
jump rope
as
stuff.
you said, even I was getting jump rope stuff in my feed, and I was...
There's so many.
Yeah.
And everybody has their kind of different style, which is not the stereotypical, like I say stereotypical competitive style. Everyone's got their own little nifty ways, and there's a couple of people within Australia I've been like, you should compete, like you're amazing. And they're like, nah, I don't really like it. Okay. I mean, I'm wired to compete, I think, but each to their own. I'm like, you know what? That's cool. Like, you just keep enjoying it and keep doing it.
That's like the expression part of the sport, right? Like, surfing is very similar. There's a lot of amazing surfers out there that have no interest in competing because it sort of takes away that
calming effect, maybe.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's how I. Yep.
Yeah.
That's how I describe it. It's their way of expressing how they're feeling and who they are, and that's probably what is tough about surfing is the subjective aspect to like what is good performance, because everyone has their own style, and it probably is only necessary for your freestyle component. The speed stuff is just like
hell for leather.
But no, I can completely see the parallels there as well. Like people just do it because they love doing it, and that's what I love about these sports, and that's why I've loved this chat, because I love talking to people who just love what they do, and you can just see that passion come out in you, and that's just really cool.
When you said 45 minutes, I was like, I don't know if you've spoken to me about skipping before. We're gonna be here a while.
You've done really well. Is there anything else you wanted to chat about you think we've missed, or?
We probably haven't really missed anything. It's probably just, I'm super passionate about spreading the word that it is a sport and that there is a pathway that you can pursue. And I guess because it is slightly niche, it actually means there's way more opportunities as well. Like, you can make it your own adventure. And it's obviously so good for you too. It's so good for you, except for your knees when you're old like me. But I mean, at the same time, there's like 60, 70-year-olds jumping rope now since COVID as well. And they're loving it. And I'll tell you one other fact. My bone mineral density has a Z score of 2.4. So I am like way above the standard deviation. The norm for my age and
well,
bone
you're
mineral
literally
density.
just loading. Like, for those who aren't sports science background, like bone mineral density, you just need to load bone, and jumping is how you do that. Yeah. And jumping is jump rope. So that's a very good point. Yeah. So
get into it. That's all I've got to say.
Low barrier of entry. Get yourself a skipping rope. You don't need
the crazy ones. There's people selling ropes for like $130 as well. Like, no, don't do that. Just basic.
Right.
It's crazy. You just really don't need that.
Oh, how good. Well, look, that might be it for today. Look,
We're going to get stormed on.
I was literally just thinking that. But yeah, look, thank you so much for your time today and your chat.
Very
I am
nice.
100% certain you've inspired at least one person to jump in there and buy their first rope and get their program off the website. And I hope you get that message soon if someone sends through that little video and you send them back the little tip, because that's
amazing.
Yeah, you're building a really cool community there, and I can't wait to see where that goes and what you make of that. So when this is released, that may have changed a little bit.
Yeah,
the
I hope
programs.
to have another program, to be completely honest.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Yep.
if you give me a couple of months, let's see what we can do.
How good.
Yeah.
Well, if anyone has any further questions about anything we've spoken about today, you can always hit us up on Instagram at Flow Nutrition, or you can hit Kirst up directly at Power of Jump Rope on
Yep.
Instagram. That may change. We'll keep you updated on any of those changes before it's released. So, Kirst, thank you so much again for your time. Everyone, thank you very much for tuning in. We will catch you again next week for another episode. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ricky.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Flow Performance Podcast. I hope you enjoyed the chat and found loads of value that you can use to fuel your flow state. If you did enjoy the content and want to support the brand, make sure you jump on the website and grab some Flow nutritional bars. They are the most effective and convenient way to fuel your flow state. And as a valued podcast listener, you can get 10% off your total order with the code FLOWPOD at checkout. So thanks again for tuning in. We will catch you again next week.